I live in Japan, but when I go back to the US, I'm completely shocked about how many choices there are for the smallest things, especially food. What kind of bread do you want for your sandwich? What kind of dressing do you want? What kind of meat do you want? What kind of cheese, toppings, what vegetables? How do you want the bread cut? Toasted? How about sides? Heck, I had culture shock in my own county. I live in West Virginia along the border with Ohio, and the northern end of our county has bridges that connect us to Ohio, whereas the southern end is more isolated. Fresh out of college, my first teaching job was as a long-term substitute at a small high school in the southern end of the county. On the first day, students said stuff like, "You have a weird accent. Are you British or something? Where are you from?" Me, about an hour north of here. New York City. If you come in from JFK Airport, it's almost impossible to tell the size of the buildings. It's unbelievable how massive everything is. Once you get into the city, though, Brooklyn is surprisingly quiet and friendly. Even Manhattan isn't all that different if you walk fast and get out of the way on the sidewalk. Of course, the country is so large. For example, I went to Texas and was shocked how proud Texas is of being Texas. At my hotel, the waffles were Texas-shaped. I went to order coffee and the sizes were small, medium, and Texas. The first time I stepped into a really bad neighborhood in my city, I honest to God thought the place looked like a war zone. It was amazing to see how seedy it was. Feces on the ground, bus shelters smelling like urine, boarded up houses. I'm from the Northeast and I traveled down alone to the South for the first time last summer. When I got out of the train and was waiting for my Uber, some random guy came along and started having a conversation with me. At first I thought he wanted something from me. Then I just started getting confused, then uncomfortable. I'm just so bewildered by people just being open to talking for minutes at a time to a stranger. Wild. Had to go to the Native American reservations before. Was honestly shocked at the level of poverty I saw. I've been to some third world countries and didn't think that level of existence was possible in the US. I don't know if this counts, but one time a white girl, went to an all-black church sermon with my friend. It was incredibly different from what I was used to, and a little overwhelming. It was very loud and there was dancing. It was like a party, especially compared to the relatively somber sermons that I was used to, where the most dancing was swaying in place and clapping to the beat. I've been surprised to find out that some things I thought were common everywhere are really just a Southern thing. For example, pimento cheese and homecoming mums. I just moved back to the Southwest after over a decade in various cities. So many things differ by region. Football really is a religion in Texas. Portland, Oregon really is as liberal and crunchy as you're picturing it, and people move there for that mindset, and it builds on itself. So much Jesus in the Southwest, but Hispanic Catholics are different than Southern Baptists. I spent a Christmas in Wisconsin, and it's a magical, frigid, snowy wonderland. The East Coast moves so fast and people are always dressed up. The food, weather, climate, people, traffic, vibes, prices, taxes vary so much in the US. It's great to see the differences all under one proverbial roof. My first real sense of culture shock was when I went to college and realized we didn't get the Monday after Thanksgiving off. Where I'm from, hunting season is a holiday. When I moved up north from the deep South as a child, I was shocked to learn that not everyone went to church. And a while ago when I was traveling, I drove through a very rural, poor area and was shocked to see billboards advertising government assistance, food stamps, Medicare and Medicaid. Culture shock in my hometown. I visited the migrant workers neighborhood right in the county that I grew up in. That level of poverty was a bit shocking. There was no electricity or running water, and the houses were just shacks with holes in the walls. I live in Virginia. I live in South Florida, and I see other people experience culture shock all of the time. People visiting from other states are amazed at how Spanish is the primary language in and around Miami. It's wild going from Michigan to the South. Restaurants, retail and department stores, grocery stores, and everything else is done at a much slower pace. I grew up on a poor, rural dairy farm in an area with pretty lacking schools. For grad school, I went to a very prestigious university with a lot of international students. I was chatting with a girl from Taiwan a few weeks before graduation about our plans for afterwards, and in the same tone I might mention asking my dad to pick up some pizza for me, she said she was about to ask her dad to buy a defense company so she could get a job in the industry, despite not having U.S. citizenship. Before I moved to the Northeast and was still in school, I had a college professor from New Jersey talk about how shocked his wife was that strangers greet each other. They were driving slowly down a country lane in Kansas, and a farmer waved to them from his tractor. The wife asked if the husband knew the man, and he laughed. He'd been living in Kansas a year before the wife came to join him. I grew up in Texas, Kansas, and Oklahoma. I thought it just natural when you make eye contact with a stranger to smile and nod your head in passing. Maybe you even say a friendly hello or good morning. But I was shocked at how unfriendly life felt once in New York. And when the Northeasterner says hello, it's always "how are you" followed by a "fine, how are you doing?" There's very few who have a different greeting. I've even had them say thank you when I've greeted a stranger with a good morning, which strikes me the oddest of all possible responses. Typically, the stranger's response is ignoring you, or they will correct your good morning, evening with the actual time if you get it wrong. Damn, do I miss a simple smile as strangers pass. I had no idea you could go to a store like Walmart for liquor in many states until I went to Mardi Gras in New Orleans in 2005. Can't do that in Pennsylvania. I was verily gobsmacked. So, I'm a white woman and have lived in the Midwest and South for a long time, but primarily in suburban areas. I grew up in the Deep South, so I thought I was fairly progressively minded when it comes to race relations in the U.S. A while back, I moved to the Atlanta area, and my husband and I settled on the south end of the metro area. I hadn't found a job yet, so I decided to visit a regional mall in Morrow. I went in and it was fine, but after a few minutes I got this crazy feeling, like my brain was alerting me. It took me a while to realize what it was. I was literally the only white woman in the whole building. There were a lot of people, African Americans, Asian Americans, Latino Americans, no other whites like me. None of the other shoppers paid me any mind, so I kept shopping. But I kept asking myself, why am I feeling so weird? Everyone's being courteous, or at least not caring if I'm there or not. Then it hit me. This is how my ethnic friends must feel when they're at work or in a situation where they're the only people of color around. Not necessarily bad or scared, but there's definitely a feeling that you're different. And it really does affect one's mood and instincts. I now remember that feeling when I'm at work or in a situation where everyone's mostly white except for one or a few people of color. Are they feeling that way now, even though they're smiling and seeming fine? It certainly helps me understand my own privilege in these sorts of groups.